Hey there, nerds. My name is Dr. Jordan Breeding, and welcome to another episode of your brain on. Just kidding! Oh, it's another Mustachioed Awards ceremony episode. Gotcha, turds! We sure do give out a lot of awards for convincingly lying on camera, like with the Oscars, the Emmys, the Golden Globes, the presidency. But even with the Academy's coke-zillion or so categories, there are still some types of acting that deserve their own award ceremony. Because some super talented actors are performing amazing and surprisingly difficult acting feats, and nobody's out there giving them the recognition they deserve. Like For decades, Hollywood assumed any sort of first contact with aliens or fairy goblins or whatever would involve everybody speaking perfect English, though the non-humans would sport wildly exotic British accents.
It turns my stomach.
But slowly, as nerds consolidated more and more power, we began to demand more from our very serious productions about lasers, dragons, and laser dragons.
No, Sin, you fool! Stop!
And that's why so many nerd properties now feature their own constructed languages, like Dothraki from Gene Roddenberry's Game of Thrones, or Na'vi from Avatar, or Klingon from Star Trek. Besides turning our escapism into subtitles-ridden reading assignments, the biggest problem with creating a fictional tongue is that your linguistic baby will ultimately have to be delivered on screen by non-fluent actors, some of whom will end up dropping it on its head.
Kach!
Disclaimer, I'm just gonna try and pronounce things off the top of my dome without looking it up, because I always look it up and it takes forever and I don't wanna do it and I'm lazy, and that, it kind of fits the vibe of this section. Right? Anyway, in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, Christopher Lloyd plays a Klingon commander simultaneously attempting to murder Kirk and apparently the whole Klingon language. Lloyd's Klingon delivery is so wooden and features so many unnecessary pauses between each word that I'm shocked that the movie's big twist wasn't that he and Kirk were long-lost twins.
Dosh! There.
Does this make Christopher Lloyd a bad actor? Well, let me answer that question with another question. How dare you? It's just, he has a little trouble putting his heart into made-up lines that must sound to him like a jammed printer. They just don't prepare you for this kind of stuff in acting school, I assume. Can you tell I never went to one? Are acting schools even real? Anyway, here's Dan Hildebrand, whose character on Game of Thrones is supposed to be fluent in Valyrian, but instead sounds kind of like a jammed printer. Clunky, forced, makes me want to slam him. Is that too sexual? Anyway, have you ever had sex with a jammed printer? I did, and I loved it.
You see
the same problem with Neytiri's parents in Avatar, or with pretty much every Martian in John Carter. All of them needlessly accentuate every word in their lines because to them, it's just random noise that they had to memorize by ear.
Tarkus.
And speaking of Martians, Matt Damon didn't even attempt an authentic Martian accent.
Because I'm stupid.
But anyway, check out Alicia Debnam Carter speaking Tri-Good slang. Dude. But check out Alicia Debnam Carey speaking Tri-Good slang, the fictional language from the 100.
I don't sin in, she'd be like I gaff sin in.
She sounds pretty good, right? Is her name correct? I don't know. Maybe it's because on the show that crazy ass language is meant to be future English, so it's easier to emote while speaking it. Or maybe it's because she's pretty young and therefore grew up in geekier times, so her brain doesn't subconsciously want to give itself a wedgie for trying to master a skill about as useful in the real world as authentically being able to mimic TIE fighter sounds with your mouth. This could also explain Emilia Clarke's fluent Valyrian on Game of Thrones, or Zoe Saldana's believable Na'vi in Avatar. Then there's Elias Gabel, who plays Rakharo in Game of Thrones. You remember him, right? I don't seem to. He was the one who died horribly and out of nowhere. Kind of like, well, every character. Anyway, he played a random Dothraki and spoke the made-up language like I hate myself. Effortlessly and without a hint of hesitation. This episode. He sounds so fluent and natural, it's like he's been speaking Dothraki since birth. At times, it's almost like you could sense what he's saying without any subtitles because of how he's saying it. You want me to just limp to the end? That was flawless. No notes! A brilliant performance like that should be rewarded with more than a lame off-screen death. So congratulations, Gabel, you win the, Golden Chewbacca Award for Best Made-Up On-Screen Gibberish, which in Shuriwook would be Acting in a mask is extremely difficult. Believe me, I've been wearing a mask for most of my life. Another strong, less sad example, Julian McMahon's performance as Dr. Doom in 2005's Fantastic Four. And yes, those air quotes are necessary because I know a fake doctor when I see one, and you, sir, are no fake doctor, sir. McMahon's not a bad actor, he just projects very little confidence, which makes all his movements look exaggerated and stiff and unnatural, as if he was starring in a community college play about his own sex life.
It's gonna be fun.
The problem is that most actors learn to act primarily with their face and ignore the body, like a bunch of Gnostics, am I right? You know Gnosticism, the idea that the mortal body's inferior and basically worthless in comparison to the soul? No? Bunch of Irenaeus fans in the chat today, I guess. So whatever, when you put on a mask as an actor, it's sometimes as if they're learning to walk for the first time. It accidentally works with, say, Jason from all the Friday the 13th movies because his awkward body language emphasizes his lack of humanity.
Son of a bitch.
But with, say, General Clytus and Flash Gordon or the Humongous and Mad Max 2, their awkward body language is just awkward. Clytus can't even die convincingly.
Clytus.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool.
I know, right?
The masked CGI might have had a tiny baby hand in it, but it never feels like you're looking at a faceless character. Probably because the masked and unmasked versions are so in sync. They move the same way, they sound the same way, so whenever you see Deadpool, you automatically see Reynolds underneath the mask.
Maximum effort.
Then you have Star Wars and Adam Driver's masked and unmasked Kylo Ren, which are essentially two completely different characters. One is a lost child, and the other is basically a young Darth Vader, and despite what Lucas tried to do with the prequels, the two should not be one and the same.
I'm a person and my name is
John C.
While wearing his mask, Kylo Ren is swift and intimidating, but also unpredictable and a little unbalanced. While without the helmet, he transforms into a reserved, timid kid who always seems like he's just playing at badass Sith Lord dress-up, while the masked Ren is a badass Sith Lord. And that's not even including shirtless Ren, which adds a whole other sweaty dimension to the character and also my daydreams.
It's your greatest weakness.
Still though, the award for Best Mask Performance can only go to Hugo Weaving as V in V for Vendetta, because with him, you can always feel every emotion that he's going through underneath the totally static mask, thanks to Weaving's body language, tone of voice, and the way he knifes people in their vital organs. It's subtle, but I think that last one means that he's hungry. For murder.
Verily, this vicious swaz of verbiage veers most verbose.
And so, the Golden Mask Award for wearing a mask for hours at a time without crying about it like a big baby, unlike some people, goes to Hugo Weaving. And the award for most out-of-nowhere segue goes to me for this next transition. Want to know the real reason the Hobbit movies can go screw themselves in their Hobbit holes? They made Ian McKellen cry.
There is no point in arguing.
While filming The Hobbit, Peter Jackson used extensive green screen to make all the dwarf and Hobbit actors look fun-sized, because all that forced perspective camera trickery from the Tridge is a young man's game. Or at least the game of a man who gives even half a shit about the movie he's making.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
During one such shoot, McKellen sat alone at a table surrounded by lamps with picture cutouts of his co-stars glued to them that'd be replaced by the scaled down actors in post, when he just broke down crying and said, "It's not what I do for a living. I act with other people. I don't act on my own."
Well, now you put it that way.
He still does a phenomenal job in the movie because he's Ian McKellen, which I believe is his legal middle name. But it shows you how difficult it can be to act with a secondary color as your co-star. Another time, when Ewan McGregor recalled what he didn't like about playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars prequels, he said it was having to deliver already awkward lines at even more awkward tennis balls on sticks.
More did you speak?
Again, Ewan does a great job because he's Ewan McGregor. The reason McKellen and McGregor felt the way they did was because acting is just like slowly, sensuously slurping a super long spaghetti noodle. Unless you have someone to do it with, it kind of looks sad and weird. This brings us to Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow. Scatwat, as nobody calls it for short, stars Gwyneth Paltrow supposedly investigating giant, maybe Nazi robots while looking like I do when I see vegetables in the grocery store. You know, staring right past everything like there's nothing even there. You just never buy that she's supposedly witnessing walking buildings showcasing the awe-inspiring and terrible power of technology. Instead, her looks betray what really happened on set that day. A bored actress stared blankly into a green screen while wondering what body part of hers she should use in the future as the scent for a candle. And the choice was the wrong one. But now, let's look at Naomi Watts' brilliant performance in King Kong. Here's why it's more impressive than you think. For every scene where Kong holds Watts in his giant monkey hands, Watts had to get into this ridiculous contraption and cry and scream out of pants-wetting fear, all to make us believe that she was really in the grips of a giant ape, when in fact, she was wearing a couple of moldy sausages and an oversized belt.
Just because we can't touch each other doesn't mean that we can't really,
And the fact that she made it work speaks volumes to her talents as this very specific kind of actress.
A whole day riding the hand.
Yeah, many variations.
That's right.
And so, the award for giving a convincing performance from inside the Grinch's anus goes to Naomi Watts. And scene!